Okay guys, in this video we will be building a new application. We'll be using Amazon Cloud AWS for that. And also we will use CDK to build this application. So CDK stands for AWS Cloud Deployment Kit. It brings some benefits of being able to use code as an infrastructure. There is a nice presentation by Werner Vogels. I watched it before, so I recommended it before going anywhere. So let's go and define what we want to build first. So this is my diagram, API-diagrams.net I use for this. That's my usual tool to describe things. Let's go to, let's say, email. So what we're going to build is the following. We want something to be run on AWS in VPC, which stands for Virtual Private Cloud, Amazon. So whatever we build will be living in some some network. So this will be VPC, just to define that this is VPC, let's say. So let's say this is VPC, this is the borders of it, and there will be some objects, let's say, inside services. So what we're gonna build, it will be application. I think it will be Java, just to make it simple. Well, some may argue that Java is not simple, but in this case it doesn't matter. It could be any app, and this Java application will be run inside of the container. Okay, so that's, and this is to up, and to front. This will be a container. And this object, it will be actually DynamoDB. Also, we can use these icons. So let's say it's a database in the cloud, right? So this database is serverless database. Also, in terms of, I said that this app will be running in the container. What I mean by container here is we're not going to use Kubernetes, but we may use Docker just to make it run in the container, and we will use AWS container service. I'll just type it like that intentionally just to show you what Google will give me. In our case, we will use AWS ECS, which stands for Amazon Elastic Container Service, and we will use it along with AWS Fargate. This one, okay? So AWS Fargate will be managing our container infrastructure, and this is in a way is a simpler way to start with containerized applications, arguably, instead of going with Kubernetes. So that's what we will choose. So then let me just define it here. The whole thing will be run by AWS Fargate and ECS. Let me just type it here. ECS containers, right? And Fargate. I'll just put all these diagrams here so we know what we're dealing with, right? AWS Fargate, and this is ECN, containerized app. This application will be talking to database, which in our case is DynamoDB. Then we will use AWS CDK on our client side, let's say. So we are as a user, as a person, this is we. So we will be using this AWS CDK to build our project, right, with it. And the project will be something like a TypeScript code, actually. So initially we will not have any Java or anything. It will be TypeScript code that we will produce with this CDK. And when this project is built, we will use it to deploy this infrastructure. So as a result of this deploy, the infrastructure will be built with PN, with certain virtual private cloud network, with ECN configurations, AWS Fargate. We will define the application itself, but it's gonna be a language agnostic. This level, we'll just define that, okay, there is certain app, Java app that talks to database, right? And that's it. So when we deploy, we will able to see what's going on. Maybe, maybe we will define some really simple hello world app for Java to be able to test it maybe by some REST call. It's going to be something like that. Okay, so that's what we're going to build. And this kind of infrastructure, why it might be useful for you to consider. This is a base point where you want to go and, let's say, transfer your existing application that you might have on premise, like your old app, right? And you want to move this old app to be there, right? To be run in the cloud. This is your app Java. old one. So this is one of the strategy to build this stuff. Let's say we create some kind of template with minimal functionality of the new app that we will be transferring to the cloud. And at some point, every time when this client calls this new app, right, we might have defined some kind of, but more like adapters that will call back. Yeah, let's say it this way. So it will be call the old app and fetch functionality out of it. So the new app, which is almost empty and it'll just transfer calls to the old app, will make our client think that everything is already transferred to the new cloud. And we might decide, let's say, to move functionality one by one from old app to the new app until this disappeared completely. Or we can just move this up, put this up in the container, depending on our strategy, right? And just put it inside and replace this. Just put this old app to be run in container as is. It depends, right? It depends. But it's quite often that because this app is old, we not necessarily want to move it as is to existing one. We might want to build a new one, start building new one with the new patterns or with new approaches, with new configurations, with new functionalities. But this app will be calling still the old one on premises. And we can move it one by one whenever we have time, one functionality after another. So my point is that this is one of the way to create a new infrastructure in cloud based on your existing one, right? So it's like a strategy to go to cloud. Let's say, let's put it like with simple words, right? Okay, and there will be our description, whatever this is about. Right now we're trying to be as generic as possible. Okay, so that's what we're going to build. And of course, we will use Chat GPT for that because there is no icon yet. Yeah, there is no icon yet for Chat GPT. So we will use Chat GPT to help us to build the project. And I did it just before that. Look what I asked. I said, you know what? Build a CDK deployment script with Java application run in ECS and DynamoDB it talks to all runs in VPS, right? Virtual Private Cloud. And there is an example. Here's an example of AWS CDK deployment script in TypeScript that deploys Java application running in Amazon ECS that communicate with the DynamoDB table within the VPC. So as you can see, we haven't mentioned here anything about Fargate, but by default it will use it. I'll show it to you. So look, it imports everything, all this DynamoDB, Elastic Cloud Database, Elastic Cloud Balancing version 2, ECS, ECS2, like all these libraries. It creates VPC. It's creating this new cluster. As you can see, everything, all this configuration is actually a code. So configuration is a code, which is good. So here it uses Fargate, defining the task definition. It's putting this memory limits, all that stuff. So we will just copy it and paste it to our application. Okay, and that's what I did before. Also, I'll show it to you. So I just created this little TypeScript deployment TS file and just copy paste everything as is. As next step, I did this. I had to install a CDK. So I did this npm install AWS CDK library. I just Googled it here, like what has to be done to run it. And I just followed this because I'm gonna use TypeScript. By the way, I tried to use some other languages like Java for this, but the TypeScript seems like a native language for that and it provides better support. Once I installed this AWS CDK library, everything resolved and I got all this configuration ready for me to use. I'm not saying that this is perfect configuration, but at least it's a good start and we can start from there building our app. Okay, so on the next videos, I'll show you the next step, how to edit this and deploy. So we'll try to deploy it as soon as possible to make it work for us and then do some other improvements, whatever it comes to mind. Going to prod fast is the important factor here in this series of videos. Okay, hope it makes sense and see you in the next video. Thanks.